Slider outside, curveball in the dirt, and then 97 inside corner. That is how comedian/actor Will Sennett would strike out Timothée Chalamet. You've probably heard about this fictional at-bat in either tweet form or TikTok form.
Second pitch, curveball in the dirt. You chased it. Of course you chased it.
Of course, Timothée Chalamet's coming off a really big year, Dune Part 2, a complete unknown, and there was some crossover in the sports world as well with his appearance on College Game Day. His face is everywhere, and yet anytime I see it, I think to myself, gee, that would be just a devastating pitch sequence. Which gave me an idea. I should try to find a real-life Major League at-bat that perfectly mirrors the Timothée Chalamet matchup described by Will Sennett. Now, Will Sennett is putting Timothée Chalamet's mind in a blender by pitching him backwards. The conventional approach would be to throw a fastball early in the count and then try to get strike three with a breaking pitch. He's doing the opposite. He's throwing the breaking pitches early in the count, and then on an 0-2 count, when Timothée Chalamet is expecting a breaking pitch out of the zone, he dots him with the fastball. The key to finding this perfect Timothée Chalamet at-bat reenactment is going to be that curveball, that second pitch, because the curveball has somewhat fallen out of style in Major League Baseball in some cases. Here's the last 10 years of Major League Baseball, and over here where it says pitch percentage, that is curveball usage. So we've gone from, 10 to 11% curveball usage in the late 2010s. In 2024, it was as low as 8%. So it's going to be all about pitch mix. It's going to be about finding a pitcher who is willing to throw both a curveball and a slider. So what I'm doing first and foremost is I'm hopping on Baseball Savant and I'm looking at curveball usage among starters. I want guys who have a good volume, a good sample size of at-bats that we can sort of parse through. And I'm looking for guys that have good usage rates in terms of curveball, slider, and four-seam fastball as well, I would say, although any sort of fastball variant will do. Justin Verlander is a good example of this. In 2024, Justin Verlander, 22% curveball, 20% slider, 48% four-seam fastball. He is a prime candidate to have put together an at-bat resembling the Timothée Chalamet at-bat. So I'm putting together a little team, right? Like these are the guys who have the right sort of pitch mix that might lead them to have had a three-pitch Timothée Chalamet-like at-bat in 2024. Here's the thing about the curveball versus the slider. The slider is thought to be a pitch with platoon splits. It's more effective against same-handed hitting. If you're a right-handed pitcher like Will Sennett, you will throw that slider, it will move away from right-handed hitting, and that is going to lead to an advantage. A curveball is seen as more neutral, and because it's actually neutral, very often you'll see a higher usage rate against opposite-handed hitting. So for the sake of this exercise, I'm picturing an at-bat from a right-handed pitcher versus a right-handed hitter, and we're going to have to find pitchers who are not just willing to throw a curveball, but willing to throw that curveball versus right-handed hitting rather than left-handed hitting. So here's a good example, right? Nick Pivetta is willing to throw a curveball, but he's not really willing to do it versus a righty. His curveball usage rate versus right-handed hitters in 2024, less than 3%. Whereas Justin Verlander, on the other hand, is willing to throw a curveball to a righty. He's at 21%. We're going to look at Verlander at bats, but not Nick Pivetta at bats. The reason I'm only focusing on a handful of pitchers versus the entire league is that I don't know a good way to query a full at-bat sequence. There's no way for me, at least as far as I know, to search for at-bats that feature a first pitch slider, then a second pitch curveball, then a third pitch fastball, three-pitch strikeout. Don't really have a good way to do that. I'm sure there's a way to do it somewhere. Instead, what I'm going to look for is the last pitch of the sequence. The last pitch of the sequence is a fastball inside to a right-handed hitter on an 0-2 count that leads to a strikeout. That's what we're looking for in Savant Search. Our roster of pitchers we're looking at: Arrighetti, Cole, Gallen, Glasnow, Gray, Musgrove, Verlander. Those were the most likely guys based on pitch mix and pitch usage to possibly produce a result. And looking here, there's not a lot of results right away for pitches that meet this final 0-2 fastball. From 2024, Zach Gallen has 4 such 0-2 strikeouts on the fastball inside. Spencer Arrighetti has 1. Tyler Glasnow has 1. And this is because it's an example of pitching backwards. It's doing something unorthodox. These guys have good breaking pitches. Normally, you wouldn't expect them to throw a fastball on an 0-2 count. And for the most part, they do obey that. Before I parse through the rest of these sequences, I am going to get rid of the Spencer Arrighetti one just because it's an 86 mile per hour cutter. That's the strike three, and I don't think that is in keeping with the spirit of the Timothée Chalamet at bat. Don't get me wrong, it's an effective backup cutter to Julio, but it's not what we're looking for. So one of the Zach Gallen examples is this pitch to Willy Adames on strike three that we were able to query. It's really good. It's dotted inside corner. It's looking, which I think is kind of implied if you read between the lines of the tweet. I think it's a little bit implied that he takes strike three looking because he's so befuddled after having chased the curveball in the dirt. It's not quite the velocity we're looking for. It's 94 versus the described 97, but this is a good example of a pitch that could be used to cap off our sequence. However, the sequence here is 0-0 fastball, 0-1 fastball, 0-2 fastball. Remember, I'm only able to query the end of the at-bat, and then I have to manually find an at-bat where the curveball is the second pitch and the slider is the first pitch. This is not a match. However, I did find this sequence from the same game versus Rhys Hoskins, top of the first, 0-0 slider, 0-1 knuckle curve, and then finally ending it with the fastball inside. And this one comes in at 96, so it's a better match velocity-wise. We're going to stick a pin on this, come back, look at it later. So I'm going to look for a different type of strike three. I'm going to look for called strike three on the fastball from 0-2 because in my headcanon, it is a called strike three to end the at-bat. That's just how I'm picturing it. He's pitching him backwards after all. That should be the intended outcome. And we're still looking versus right-handed hitting. We're going to go location independent. It just has to be a called strike three. Doesn't have to be inside. And yet to better match the description of Will Sennett's sequence to Timothée Chalamet, we're going to look for pitch velocity over 96 miles per hour. And when we do that, only Glasnow has produced such strike threes on an 0-2 count, but now we can look through a few other sequences to try to find a match. And lucky for us, one of those results is a match. We have an at-bat versus Thairo Estrada from April 3rd, 2024. Slider, curveball, fastball, strike one, strike two, strike three. Here's the final pitch. That's the 0-2. Not in the inside corner, but it is looking, and it is gas at 98. I like this. We'll take a look at the full sequence in just a second. So I've decided to expand my search a little bit, look at that same pitch usage leaderboard for right-handed pitchers in 2023 and 2022. That's because we still have the 2022 and 2023 seasons full available on MLB TV, and we're going to be adding a few other pitchers to our search. So this is the expanded list of guys I came up with. It's not just the 2024 season we're looking at this point, but also 2023, 2022. And the two most relevant new ads are Nate Eovaldi as well as Tristan McKenzie. And the reason they are the most relevant is because we were actually able to find sequence matches on them as well. So that means we get to take a look at this at-bat, Anthony Volpe versus Eovaldi from September 4th, top of the 4th. Strike one slider, strike two curveball, strike three fastball, exactly what we're looking for. You wouldn't be able to tell it from the video, but this strike three is actually foul tipped into the catcher's mitt, but otherwise it's 96, it's inside, it's what we're looking for. And then the final three pitch at bat I was able to find is Tristan McKenzie versus Jorge Mateo. This is from June 2022, and it goes slider, curveball, fastball. And we'll see how the other pitches look from this at bat, but this is a great strike three because it's inside corner. We've seen inside, but we haven't seen inside corner just yet, and it's looking. I love that. That's a great strike three. So I've come up with this 6-part rubric. You will get a point for fulfilling each of these 6 criteria for a maximum score of 6. On the first pitch, slider, simply is it outside? That's the only requirement we're looking for. Is it on the outer half of the plate or off the plate? Second pitch, the curveball, does it hit dirt? And is there chase? Those are the words, the key words mentioned in the tweet and the TikTok. And then finally, the third pitch, strike three, there are 3 criteria. Is it 97 plus in terms of velocity? Is it inside? And is it a corner? That's the maximum total of 6, and we're going to grade these full sequences now. Oh, and one more thing. If there's a foul ball, that is -1 point, because Timothée Chalamet is so flustered, there's no way he's making contact with any of this. We're going to start with the first sequence we found. This is Gallen versus Hoskins. First pitch, we're looking for the slider, and is it outside? It is not. It is, horizontally speaking, roughly middle of the plate. No point there on the first pitch. Second pitch, the curveball, we're looking for dirt and we're looking for chase. Let's see how it goes. And it's a foul, so that's going to be -1. Here's how we're going to grade this one. All right, we have a foul, so that is -1. However, we also have chase. He swung at a pitch outside of the strike zone like an idiot, like Timothée Chalamet would, and so that's going to actually offset. It's going to be +1 for the chase, -1 for the foul, and then as far as the dirt element goes, it does not hit the ground. However, for a pitch that is specifically below the strike zone in this case, as this pitch is, I'm willing to award half a point specifically for that location. So that's going to be plus 0.5 points based on pitch number 2. And then finally, strike 3, there are 3 points up for grabs, inside corner and 97. It's a good pitch. It's a good pitch from Mr. Zach Gallen. It's going to get him some points. However, not the full Monty. All right, at 96, not 97, but at 96, I'm willing to give him half a point for velocity, so plus 0.5 there, and it's also inside. So a full point for inside, although he doesn't get the point for corner. This is not in the corner, this is just inside, but middle in terms of just where it is vertically in the strike zone. I will say with regards to called strike 3 versus swinging strike 3, although in my headcanon this is a called strike 3, I'm only grading based on words mentioned in the original text from Will Sennett, so that is more of an aesthetic choice if anything, so this is 1.5 points based off of this strike 3. So the final score for Zach Gallen is going to be 2 out of 6. We should really consider these points to just be bonus points, right? They've already won by producing a 3-pitch at bat that goes slider, curveball, fastball. These are just bonus points for further accuracy. Let's move on to the second sequence I want to look at. This is McKenzie versus Mateo, and we are looking for the slider outside. And we do not get it, and it is fouled back. It's really more middle than anything. But yes, this 88-mile-per-hour slider from Tristan McKenzie is fouled back, so that's -1, and it is not located outside. So unfortunately, he's going to start with a -1 hit based on that first pitch. Second pitch is going to be the curveball, and this is much better. This is much more accurate. We're going to do the 0.5 points for below the zone, not hitting the dirt, but it is below the zone, and we get the chase, and there's no foul, so he's going to get 1.5 points back for this second pitch. We've talked about how good the third pitch is already, and it is great. It does not meet the velocity requirement at 94, but it is inside, and it is corner, so 2 out of the 3 possible points from that third pitch. So that's going to be a score of 2.5 out of 6, so we are going to put him ahead of Gallen. 2 sequences down, 2 more to go. So here's the Tyler Glasnow at bat versus Thairo Estrada. This is from 2024. Looking for that slider outside. I'm going to say we got it. It is on the outer half of the plate. I'm willing to give Tyler Glasnow 1 point based on the location of that slider. Next up is curveball. We're looking dirt and we're looking chase. This does just clip the strike zone. It is not below the strike zone. There's going to be no bonus for location and no bonus for chase. It's very unfortunate. He could have gotten himself 1.5 points if it was just a smidge lower and he convinced Estrada to chase outside of the zone. That did not happen. It's a very nasty pitch. We can certainly appreciate it one more time, but it's going to produce no points in terms of the rubric. And then finally, the third pitch, the fastball. We don't get inside, we don't get corner, but we do get the velocity at 97 plus. This is specifically 98 miles per hour, so he will get 1 point for velocity, and I do like that it's looking, but just based on the letter of the law, this is only going to be 1 more additional point based on this pitch, which unfortunately means for Tyler Glasnow, although it's dominant, although it does not feature a foul ball like the other 2, it is going to be a 2 out of 6. Just based on accuracy, this is a 2 out of 6 and thus currently in third place. Is our champion already here, or could it be our final sequence? All right, this is the final sequence, Eovaldi versus Volpe for all the marbles. First pitch slider, we're looking for outside, and we get it. That is the best slider we've seen all day in terms of just the description. It is 86, and it is right on the black. Right there, called strike 1. 1 point out of a possible 1 point for this first pitch. Second pitch is going to be that curveball. We're looking for dirt. We're looking for chase. And again, pretty darn good on that curveball. In terms of the dirt score, we are willing to give half a point for that because it was below the zone. Not in the dirt, but below the zone gets you half a point, and he does chase. He was chasing all along, that Anthony Volpe / Timothée Chalamet. Eovaldi already at 2.5 points. He just needs a good fastball to take things home, and I think that is good enough. It is 96. We've already established that that is good for plus 0.5 points. You don't get the full point for reaching 97 or higher, but at 96, he's close enough. Is he inside enough? The answer is yes. He is inside on the inner third of the plate, so that is plus 1 point, although no points for corner. So it's plus 1.5 points. That brings him up to 4 total. And then the last bit of business is that this is a foul tip back into the glove, which is something that Timothée Chalamet would never do. He would be so befuddled by this pitch sequence that he would never be able to even come close to making contact, realistically speaking. However, you can't really tell that that's the case from the video, and it's not the same as some of the other foul balls we've seen. So even if we were being harsh and subtracting a full point, or even if we were being more of a compromise and subtracting half a point, the result is still the same. Nathan Eovaldi has indeed put together the best example of a sequence that could strike out Timothée Chalamet on 3 pitches.
Barring a big comeback. Legitimate weakness. All teams look like they might be headed to the postseason, the 0-2. There's a swing and a miss. Strike 3, Volpe strikes out.
But to me, they're all winners. They all capture the spirit of the Timothée Chalamet tweet. They are dominating sequences that go slider, curveball, fastball. That's the Gallen one. Here's the McKenzie one right here. I really like this sequence versus Jorge Mateo. And then finally, the Tyler Glasnow one. Although it's not by the book, it is in some ways the most dominant. What's curious to me is that Tyler Glasnow and Zach Gallen, relatively speaking, are both very high on the Will Sennett scale. They are Will Sennett-like in terms of their appearance, in terms of their energy even. And yet, when you look at Eovaldi versus Volpe, Volpe is by far the most Timothée Chalamet-like victim. It's not even close. It is beyond a shadow of a doubt. If you don't watch baseball, you'll just have to take my word for it. Anthony Volpe is baseball's Timothée Chalamet, for better or worse. But Eovaldi is still the best choice in terms of the pitcher, and I'm glad he won. And it's because he is capable of putting together a perfect sequence. I've stitched together 3 pitches from 3 different at-bats here, but that would be a perfect slider right outside. He would get a full point for that. And he can also throw you the 0-1 curveball in the dirt. That's exactly what he does to Mauricio Dubon. Let's watch it one more time. Watch it hit the dirt. Watch the dirt kick up. Go ahead and check. He swung, so that is a chase as well. That would be a perfect second pitch. And then finally, an example of a perfect third pitch. This is to DJ LeMahieu. This is 97. This is corner. This is called strike 3. And yes, that is in the strike zone, folks. Funnily enough, Will wants you to go see Eephus in theaters. It is a baseball movie starring his podcast co-host, so another weird connection to baseball right there. Eephus in theaters now. Go support them. And if you want to support me, go ahead and use SeatGeek code FOOLISH for $20 off your first ticket order. I like that they have the deal score. I like that you can buy 2 tickets for $29 each. That's including fees, folks. That's including fees. They're not lying to you. And you could get this view of the Royals at Kauffman. SeatGeek code FOOLISH, $20 off.